Damn.
Oh. All right. Somebody let Scooter know we are starting it up right now.
Scooter.
Does anybody else want to kick it off for this episode?
Is RJ back? Yeah, he is.
Yeah, Cabby does.
Cab?
I don't want to kick it off. What do I say? What does a man say when
No,
they kick
don't
off
let
the
the guest
podcast?
kick it off. We gotta have one of us kind of.
Yeah,
No.
I like Doughnut being the designated kicker-offer.
Okay, I'll do it again. Let's
Give it the old kick.
give the old kick here. So this is Trials Talk episode 3. Welcome back, everybody. Special guest, very big guest that we have today. HairyCabbage. Thank you for joining us today, man. We have a lot of interesting topics that we can definitely discuss regarding, building, why you started Trials. The main topics we have about like the Trials reporter bot. I don't know if you have that much to say about that necessarily, but we got a lot of different avenues that we can cover.
Oh, sure.
I think
Definitely.
I think a really good way to start this one off though is Cab, just to tell us about yourself and like why or when did you even start Trials? Like, did you start way back on the Flash games?
Nah, HD.
HD.
All the way.
Same with me,
Yeah.
man. And
I
welcome
was a
chat.
Casual player though back then.
Welcome everybody
Yeah.
from Scott's stream. Thanks for the host, Scooter.
Big host from Scott.
Yeah, glad you guys could all make it here. But yeah, no, tell us a little bit about the progression through Trials itself.
Basically, I just started playing on HD. I was a bit of an achievement hunter back on the Xbox days, so that's what I was playing for. I wasn't full-time Trials or anything. And then just before Fusion came out, I just started dabbling in a bit of Evo. And then
Sweet.
obviously Fusion came out, started building some tracks. Got into the ninja scene. Here we are.
How do you get a lot of the odd CP ideas to surface? Because we talked a lot about my top 10 favorite tracks last time.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, that's right. We're not speaking, me and you. I forgot about that. Why am I here?
And yeah, I talked a little bit about structural decay and perimeter check. The trinity that you created was fantastic, and really odd puzzle obstacles. And I don't know where did you even get that inspiration from? Where did that come from?
People say it's weird, right? I think RJ's probably called me an idiot for this when I've told him in the past. I'm pretty sure it was RJ. But basically, when I build my CPs, I don't actually build CPs. I normally build the environment, and then try and decide how a CP could work in the environment.
In there.
Yeah,
Most people don't do that.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, I know. I've talked to
no
Zach.
one really does that, to be honest.
I've talked to Zach before, and I don't know if I brought this up once another time, but Zach talked about how he plans out his decoration more so than the actual driving line itself. He writes out the plan of what each CP is going to show regarding decoration, and then he kind of builds around that. Is that kind of the same mentality that you have with these weird puzzle-like obstacles?
He builds the driving line first, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas I would normally build part of an environment and sort of decide where I want certain structures and whatnot to go, and then try and turn that into a checkpoint before actually just making a checkpoint and then decorating the checkpoint like most people probably do.
Would you say that building is then your favorite aspect of Trials, or would you consider something else?
Sort of the Twitch community, which is probably I would say my favorite. Shout out to the Twitch community. Yay.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, building.
Building for sure.
Easily.
How much time do you think you've invested into building?
More than I have riding, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't actually ride that much, to be honest. The only time I really ride is when I'm testing my track.
Mm-hmm.
And
but you are still pretty good. You can pass.
Yeah.
I mean,
but most of that skill came from building. I would say.
Testing, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite an underrated thing. You can gain a lot of skill from building
Definitely.
tracks. Definitely back in the day for myself, I pushed my limits through building harder tracks. So
Especially early on,
Yep.
like you can go from like not a ninja to like 2 or 3 just by building a couple of tracks
yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
I agree.
Assuming you actually put the work in to test the track properly and don't just like release garbage.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Building allows you to test any technique you want, so
Exactly, yeah.
practice.
Gab, what's the hardest track that you've passed? Like in your opinion, what do you think is the hardest?
Oof.
What was like the longest grind that you ever had? Because we talked
I mean,
about that at first.
aside from the full infinity, which I'd done the other week,
And
Got a
Wraith,
jokester
right?
over here.
Wraith, but Wraith was I didn't time out on Wraith though. You see, that's the thing. But apart
Not
from
much
those,
of a grind.
yeah, exactly. It was just like I'll try this track. It looks alright, and then passed it. Whatever.
Yeah, no big
Nah,
deal
I
for
don't know.
Gab.
Probably, I don't actually know. I haven't really passed any hard tracks. I guess people would probably consider my tracks to be,
Well, they're not
Well,
hard
like
for you, so I mean,
but because I've never actually passed a 5, like allegedly. Obviously, I've
Yeah.
passed, but like technically speaking, I've never passed a 5.
Are you going
So-
for the Fusion Farewell?
Nope. I wasn't
Nope.
planning on it, but I might, maybe. I was actually trying to pass Todd's track.
Yeah, you could definitely pass that. You got to like one of the last checkpoints very easily.
Yeah.
Which Todd track?
The new one.
Arrow
Not
Gambrance.
Arrow Gambrance to bracket 3.
Yeah, something like that. Like a mixture of amber and arrogance
Yeah.
combined.
It's like the
Yeah, that's-
difficulty of Amber CPs, but 12 of them.
Yeah,
It's like a super nice track as well. Shout out to Todd for that one.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely like
But I
Uh,
guess, yeah,
the best thing that's
hardest
been released
track.
recently.
hardest track I've passed it is probably like perimeter check. Because like I guess people consider my fours to be like hard fours, maybe.
It's
I don't know.
I would agree with
Yeah.
that. It's extremely hard because it's a puzzle. Like you have these obstacles that you've never like really before. Like if you're
Before.
playing level 4s
Yeah.
for the first time, then it's quite a challenge that takes a long time to just learn it. It's a learning curve type of track.
Yeah.
I think the thing with your tracks as well, because they're quite claustrophobic, they require very good bike control. You need to be able to maneuver yourself in tight
Definitely,
spots.
yeah.
And yeah,
Like it tight.
Jamaican builds that way
Yeah.
too.
yeah, on some tracks.
I think
Is
Cabby's
that
hardest
awkward
track.
style?
I
Hey,
think Cabby's hardest track is perimeter check Easter egg.
oh yeah,
Perimeter check Easter
one.
egg. Oof.
I gotta try that again. You gotta walk me through that next time, Cab. I try that.
I
I-
want to
It's
see
tough.
Plop do it. I want to see if Plop can still remember how to do it without any help.
Dude,
I probably wouldn't.
I just replayed Structural Decay, and that track is still
Ooh.
extremely hard for me. Like I
Yeah.
PB'd it by like a
it's
minute.
Borderline 5.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. Like I passed Shafted like when I released it, which was like 2015, beginning of 2015. So I haven't actually really improved in like 4 years now. Almost 4
When Shafted was built, that's when I first bought the game.
years.
So
Good times.
what are
Yeah,
your
Shafted's an old one.
Yeah, that was like beginning of 2015. Good times.
so Cab? What is your plans for Trials Rising? Like do you have like any goal to build like a certain amount of tracks or like a really hard like another hard 5, something like launch control, like another really odd puzzle like type of track, or do you want to make like a series of or like another trinity of 4, kind of like
Ooh.
Shafted?
Basically, I
Structural Decay.
started the Trinity of 5s on Fusion. The first one was launch control, so I might finish that off. But first, when I first get Ryzen, probably gonna go for all the achievements before I stop building.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I know you're a big
And
achievement
then-
guy.
Then I'm gonna start. I've definitely got big plans for the editor, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yeah.
already got a couple of tracks stored away in the old noggin, ready to go.
Yeah. With some co-op building.
Ooh, that's a good segue
Good
right
segue.
there.
We're gonna hop into it. Let's go for it, man. We can talk a little bit about that.
The co-op building. Yeah, Alan Shafted. I remember.
So, what is the co-op building like now? Like, so Plop, what did you and Zach like need to do to make Hallow Vale work on the same track?
We used just another account and shared it.
Oh,
I
okay,
built
easy enough.
I built the driving line in like 6 hours or something, and I handed it over to him, and then he spent like a week doing the deco.
Yeah.
So
But how did that
Uh,
work? Because I know on PS4 that you can't just do that, and the account itself doesn't hold the data.
it
Yeah.
does
PS4 holds the data, so
it does
No,
on the
but you can
Xbox.
upload it. You can upload your save and then obviously download it.
Yeah, in the cloud, I think it is.
The issue that I have with
Pretty
that
sure.
is that like Red Links have sort of said to do that. Like they've sort of said it's okay to do that, but it's against Xbox terms of service to share accounts. I'm just gonna put that out there. So it's not an ideal situation for co-op
So
building.
Plop should be banned, is what you're saying.
Theoretically,
And-
yeah, it's probably never enforced. Let's be honest, but technically,
Yeah.
it's against terms of service. So it's not really something that Ubisoft employees should be sort of telling people to do. But still, it's
do you
not
know
ideal.
if like how demanding Trials is? Because technically, if co-op building was to have like such a high demand, couldn't all the serious builders just like build on their laptops or something, and that way everyone could just use Hook's tool and then like give tracks and whatever. I know it's
But
not
yeah,
as ideal as like the co-op building you had in mind, where people are literally editing the same track at the same
Yeah,
time.
that'd be
That's the
crazy.
kind of dream.
yeah, that's you can do that right now on Fusion. Just share the save file on PC. It's very
Yeah.
easy to do. But
Hook's tool makes it pretty easy.
Yeah, it does.
I'm still repping HairyCabbage tool from back in the day. But yeah, same thing basically.
Give us Cabbage, give us a rundown of what your like ideal would be. How would you want the editor to work if you had it your way, like
Okay.
all,
There's two
all
main
change.
changes. Two main changes that I want that haven't been confirmed because obviously resizing and stuff's already confirmed, so I won't bother mentioning that. First one is changes to the way like terrain modification works. Because
Right.
at the moment it's like horrific and like super annoying and hard to do.
Yeah.
And it's
Agreed.
probably the hardest thing to learn in the editor, in my opinion, to do like well. Like to actually get it to like basically to get what you actually want from a terrain modification, it's actually kind of difficult.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot more time than it should. I'd like to see, yeah, what Zach just said. Planet Coaster's terrain tools are like absolutely amazing, and that game's like 3 years old now, pretty much. I think maybe probably older, but like
How does
there's
it
no
work?
excuse. It's basically just like you sort of draw with like the cursor, and like you can like raise and lower land and stuff. Instead of like putting like a tile that does it for you, you sort of
Yeah.
do it live, like sort of draw
Yeah.
on the map, sort of thing.
Instead of using like parameters inside the logic
Yeah, exactly.
tile. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like most like 3D modeling software pretty much. Like yeah, basically just like that. That would be ideal. So that's the first one. Second one would be obviously co-op editing.
Yeah.
Ideally, it would be nice if like maybe like 8 people could like edit a track at the same time live,
Yeah.
and you could sort of see what like when someone like picks up an object or whatever, you can sort of see it like maybe it would like highlight in a specific color for like specific players or whatever.
8
Basically,
people
like
can't even race on the same track in Fusion, so
yeah, but
you
yeah,
just
it would
get
be
kicked
cool.
out.
Basically, like Halo Forge, if anyone's played that, and that
Oh,
shit's
yeah.
like 10 years old, so no excuse, Red Links, no excuse.
Yeah.
Get to work.
So
Exactly, get that shit. You've had 5 years since the last game.
we talked a
There
little
better be
bit
something good.
about the hooks tool and
Actually,
whatnot.
before you go, I'm just gonna do this for Scott.
Yeah, go for it. You cracking a cold one for the boys?
Cracking open a cold one.
There we go. I'm ready. Carry on.
So you talked we talked a little bit about the hooks tool and whatnot. But I was wondering like what other like really helpful resources would you say that have been involved in the Trials community to like either like just make you a better player, writer, or make you want to just play the game more? Like this is a question for Cab, and I guess everybody else is like what has been the most helpful resources? Is it like YouTube videos? Is it just being in the editor? Is it like trying to learn to speed run? Like where do you go like to really expand and improve upon your skills?
I would say like for me, the biggest sort of thing that's kept me here at least is probably Twitch.
Mm.
But as far as like learning stuff, when I first started building, I used to use the Redlings forums. There was like an editor section.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's like some pretty helpful people on there, like who are like really good builders. You probably will never see them in a ninja stream, but they'll definitely help you out if you need something.
Yeah.
And yeah, YouTube videos. There isn't that many YouTube videos out there, and usually when you actually want something like specific, it's hard to sort of find something like a resource. So usually you just
Yeah.
sort of gotta fucking figure it out yourself. You know,
Yeah.
experience
would-
helps.
Gone.
How about
Sorry.
I would say when I
RJ?
was like barely a ninja, YouTube videos were pretty good.
Yeah.
Like Fat Shady, or like
Oh yeah,
Extreme
I mean
Fights.
yeah.
Like,
In
he's-
terms of
he's-
riding, definitely.
Yeah, and then I'd say now either like in-game replays are pretty good sometimes, and then
Mm.
Twitch chat most of the time will help. You just
Yeah.
ask anyone, and usually someone knows how to do it.
RJ, I don't know
Here's a
what you did to your
question.
mic. I don't know if you bumped your mic or something. You're sounding a little gargly. Or,
Next level fucking.
yeah,
mic
I'm not
sound
sure
in
what
there.
happened to the mic all of a sudden. RJ is working off of his laptop, by the way, you guys. We're just fortunate that we have the webcam still, but um, the
Yeah,
mic
it's not-
quality might
not
be a
too
little iffy here and there, but we'll get it hopefully sorted out. Not too big of a deal.
bad. Yeah. I was gonna say, so you mentioned the replay system. How useful do you think it is looking at the inputs of replays? Because, in my opinion, I don't think they're that useful. The only time I've used them to help me is when speedrunning, just to see like how many times someone leans, because especially at such a high level, their leaning is so quick and sometimes so smooth, it doesn't even look like they've half leaned or something when they have. So the analog helps me with
Yeah.
that, but for ninjas, I haven't really used like the input, like pictures, the actual,
See
movements.
that's the thing with trials. It's like it's super hard to explain to someone how
Yeah.
to do stuff,
Yeah,
and you
Yeah.
kind of just you can kind of give someone like an idea, but like realistically, you usually have to figure it out for yourself, especially like for like ninja stuff or like high level speed running.
Yeah.
Mm,
Like you can show someone like how to pass like an extreme track or whatever, but like actually describing like specific techniques and like telling someone how to do something, then
Yeah.
it's a lot harder than it would first seem probably.
Hey, we
I
just had a
actually
really good question in the chat from Rafflemaster. Really quick. He's asking, Cab, are you gonna make some editor tutorials for Rising?
I definitely am, 100%. That's one of the things that I've been thinking about for a while now.
I need
I've
help with
got a
that
couple
too.
of plans.
I gotta get into it.
Yeah, because quite a few people actually have shown interest in starting like some serious editing in Ryzen. You're one of those people, Doughnut, and that's a good thing. It's really good. But yeah, tutorials are like super helpful, especially
Awesome.
like low like entry level tutorials, like just basic editor shit. Because like I've seen so many people like I was gonna call some names out there, but I won't bother. But there are like some like pretty reputable builders out there that like don't know how to use basic tools that are like
Yeah.
super useful.
yeah,
Like I'm sure there are people out there who don't know how to use like the grid and all that sort of shit. And it's like so easy to use if you take like 5 minutes to learn it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm just gonna make some quick videos teaching people how to do all
Tips
that
and
basic
tricks.
shit.
I've always stuck to the basics when building, mostly.
Yeah, same.
Just I haven't done too much with logic, that's all.
Yeah, it's only kind of logic's only necessary when wanting to make an obstacle. Like I never use logic for anything else other
Yeah.
than making an obstacle. Something like, for example, the timer, Nacro, or
Yeah.
on Air Edge, like
Well,
that
that's a good
polygon
example.
thing,
Like,
or
I'm
to be
not
fair,
gonna.
I didn't make that. Yeah,
No, don't say who did make it though, but I know who made it, and I
Yeah.
can tell you that it's like massively over-engineered for what it
Yeah.
actually does, which is kind of like what I was sort of pointing out before. Is that there's like a lot easier tools that are like not that hard to like get your head around.
Sure.
Well,
yeah. I think
talking
logic's one of those things that people are like scared of using, but like it's actually not that bad
Yeah.
once you figure out what everything does.
so talking
Yeah,
about
that's good.
these resources and whatnot that can like improve upon these skills or make us actually want to play the game more. There is a topic that we kind of skipped the first couple of weeks, the Trials Reporter bot. So to give you guys a little overview of what this bot was created by Goltz. It's in the Discord for both my own and the Trials community Discord. And what it does is you can commit tracks, like you post your faults and your time for specific tracks, and you can get posted up on the leaderboard, or you can like check out what other people have done or what people have committed. You can check out a list of tracks. It can give you like a list of 5 if you type in the command plus next, and it'll like based on what you've already done, it'll give you some recommendations for like tracks to play.
Yeah.
I ended up messaging Goltz about it and like kind of asking him why did he even created such a thing, and why um just why in general is this important, and is this a thing, and like how often should you be using it, and like what are the future implications that it has. um but yeah, what do you guys have to say before we like really jump into like what Goltz talked about? What do you guys think about the reporter bot in general? Do you guys use it at all?
I have never even looked at it, if I'm completely honest. But it actually sounds pretty cool from what you were saying. I've never actually known what it's done, so I've never really sort of like looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it sounds pretty good.
I've used it to commit baseline tracks, so it'll display what level rider I am in Discord.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I helped make it as well.
yeah, I think there's a ton of us that were originally started like I guess posting whatever tracks that we wanted to. Whoops, jumping around this. Um, but yeah, I was like trying to think of what are some of the pros and cons of this reporter bot. Some of the pros being it gets people engaged a lot more. It makes people like want to um show off that like they can beat a track, and that they're showing that improvement, and the importance of like what is what do you like, how do you push yourself in this game. And I think this bot can definitely prove that to be the case. A con of it being that like it's kind of hard to, at least for me, it's hard to keep up with, and I don't feel like I'm constantly plugging in tracks, because I usually stream super late at night, and then after I'm done, I'm like I'm hitting the bed instantly. And then I forget, and then like it'll roll around to the next stream, and I just like won't end up committing tracks, and then there's slight errors. Maybe you mistype in the time, the faults, whatever. That can always be human error of like just typing in stuff incorrectly, and it can like throw off the rest of the results, because what this bot is meant to do is, so the more commits that go into it, like the more accurate it will become. Like it's really dependent on the time and the faults that you put in, and comparing it to other players, um, to progress into the next baseline tracks, whatever. But that's the problem. I think there's a little bit of an issue with like, so what about the middle ranked tracks? Like we have the baselines pretty much set in place, but it's really hard to determine, what's a 4+, what's a 5+ track. And that's when people are committing, a level 5 is maybe a level 6. It could be a borderline entry level 6. Same goes with any other tracks. What do you guys think about maybe like the consistency of like committing stuff?
I'm in the boat of like I generally can't be bothered to do shit like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a lot of effort. It's not a lot of effort, but it's a lot of effort, if you know what I mean.
I think the
every
benefits
time you pass a
definitely
track.
like are worth the effort, but to me, it's just kind of, will the benefits benefit you? For example, personally, and like I'm sure Cabbage will agree with this, I don't think like some riders' goals aren't to kind of know the level of the track they're playing or to pass certain tracks. They just play the game,
Yeah.
and they get better through just playing. And this bot will really appeal to the strivers, the people that want to become the best or want to progress quickly. And so I think the bot is great for that. But just the kind of people that aren't, too worried about getting good fast, don't think they're the target audience.
I think what Aura said in chat, if red links open up like the API, then all of this stuff can be done a lot easier and at a lot less like sort of effort for the user.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then a lot more people would actually be interested in using it.
I just wish it'd be more integrated, like a system where you can see like how much time you've put into a track, or you can see like
Yeah.
each time that you've passed a track, and seeing that improvement just integrated like in the game itself, I think would be really amazing. Yeah, I don't know how possible that is. Show that, or like even show other people's like passes for it. It would probably be a pretty extensive list if you really wanted to
Yeah.
maximize like all the different leaderboards and stuff that you could have for a track. I think the plus next, like that's the man that you do. The functionality for that I think is phenomenal. However,
Yeah.
I think when you get to a certain point, like for me, I think I've passed about like 30 level 5s now, and it's like giving me these insane level 6 like types of tracks that like I don't want to even come close to touching yet. And I don't know how it is for the lower leveled ninja players if they are committing to the bot that much, but yeah, it's crazy. Like once you do the baselines, it's like, oh yeah, let's just jump you straight into the level 6s. There needs to be a little more middle ground made with the bot.
That's the
Does
thing.
someone
I
want
mean,
to explain what plus next actually does, by the way?
Yeah, the plus next. So when you type it into a direct message to the Trials Reporter bot in the Discord, it will send you a list of 5 tracks that like it'll recommend that you play next, like based upon the hardest level that you've passed.
where does it get the tracks from?
We we just committed them, and like we had to make sure we had
so they were manually added.
Yeah, we manually put in like
There's ton.
I think what 4,000 tracks, 4,000.
Holy
It
smokes!
might be more than that now.
We put in a lot of tracks, and that was only based off of I want to say like 60 people like putting stuff into it, and we would have to make sure that we were talking to PlayStation 4 and PC players that like, oh, this is Fusion shared. Like we'd have to really collaborate on like who made a certain track, or if it was like a remake, then it would be a lot more confusing.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like the number of high level tracks just isn't high enough to be like useful for high level players.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it could be very useful for like level 1, level 2 people.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you give a suggestion, there's like hundreds of tracks to offer. But like there's only so many level 5s and 6s that it can give you before it starts going like, yeah, here's a level 7.
I also think the bot shouldn't really be at all aimed at the high level players, because I think it's say once you reach probably level 5, you're at the point where you're probably integrated into the community because of your skill, and the next step is easy to know because
you probably know what tracks you want to
probably
pass.
know what you want to pass when you hit level 5. I think the bot is definitely like more useful for 1 through 4. Yeah.
The
It
Yeah,
sounds
for
like a good tool though. It sounds like if it's implemented for Ryzen, it could be really good for lots of new players.
yeah,
For sure.
I think it's a really good introductory type of
But
system.
again, it all depends on whether the person using it can be bothered to keep it up to date. That's like the big key.
Yeah.
There's a lot of manual effort required to use it.
Yeah, we
currently.
have a big community though.
It's nice though. Like you haven't committed a track yet on it, right, Cab?
Nope, I have no idea what it is
So
until now.
like okay, I'm gonna do like a really quick breakdown of what it does. So you do plus commit is the command. So again, this is directly.
Does it take your personal score?
So yeah, you'll
you
start
would-
off like type in the plus commit, and then it'll ask you, all right, what game are you on? You know, Fusion, Evo, etc. You type in Fusion, and then it'll ask you, all right, what was the name of the track? You got to make sure you get the spelling all right, and then it's like a progressive order of questions that are made for you.
See that
instantly.
is a lot of effort.
Yeah.
That's like even just getting the name of the track correct is like more effort than I'd probably be willing to put in, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. And then like once you put in all that information, it'll ask you like, all right, what was your faults on it? What was your time on it? And then like what
Yeah.
bike you used, and then it's like posted to the rest of the Discord after you type in each of those questions. So it is a little bit of effort. It definitely it takes just that teensy bit. Like if you don't recall the name perfectly, like you got to have the game open, or you have to have
Yeah,
YouTube
exactly,
or
yeah.
Google open to like actually look at names.
Yeah.
But my next question was talking about how do you consider yourself like a certain ninja level? So that's what this bot is also.
I don't
I think
personally.
it's also kind of aimed at that. Now there is no perfect way, of course, to level, you know, to name yourself any certain ninja level, unless
Yeah.
you've played literally everything, and then you know you can call yourself a god. But like what this system is supposed to do is once you pass the 3 types of baseline tracks, you can then consider yourself a ninja level. For instance, the let's see, what are the baselines for level 5? So it's petrified is the technical level 5 baseline. We have, what is it? Mount confirmation, I think is the other level 5 baseline. And then what is the front wheel back wheel? 5s. I'm spacing out.
Aegon maybe.
No, I don't think it's big. But anyways,
Sylvanas?
it might be Sylvanas. Yeah.
Oh, probably.
Actually, yeah, I think it is Sylvanas. So
Best plot.
so
track.
after you know put your name and whatnot on the leaderboards, you can then commit those tracks, and you will then be considered a ninja level. I personally like that system. There are some of those who disagree and say, "Oh, you're a ninja level." Like as soon as you beat that, like even if it's just one of that ninja ring, you are.
I actually agree with 7. I'm of the mindset that ninja levels weren't created to call people. They were like difficulties. Like you don't go around calling yourself sort of like an extreme rider when you pass Inferno or whatever.
I used to hate
do though.
when people
That's
said
just
that
No.
all the
you do.
time.
You just call yourself good.
No, because this is exactly what this bot's for. It's for people that want to get better. And if you go into a Twitch stream and you need advice or you want to know what track to pass next, you can't
You
just
say
say
like you say
"I'm a good
I've
rider,
passed
what
a
should I
few
pass
4s.
next?"
That's what I
Well,
would say.
yeah.
I wouldn't be like I'm a level 4 rider. I mean like proper lethal.
Yeah, but that's the same thing. Like, there's no differentiation between them. If someone asks what ninja level can you pass and you say 4, you're a ninja
Yeah,
level.
but
4
if I haven't passed, like,
think
what are the
that should
baselines for
matter.
4s? What are the baselines for 4s?
One of the baselines I think is like
What's the back front wheel baseline for 4? I can promise you I probably haven't passed it.
the cat maybe.
Haven't passed it.
Could be.
What's the
Cat.
back front baseline for level 3?
Arla, I think.
Probably also haven't passed it. So am I level 2 rider?
But
Yeah, but
you know you
but
get to
haven't
choose what you
committed to the
commit,
bot, so
and that's the
Yeah,
thing.
but I couldn't commit to the bot because I haven't passed the track.
If you wanted to use the bot, then you would pass the track, and then you would be the right level.
It's an
like, this is the whole
incentive.
point.
Yeah, that's like it's an incentive to like,
It's
oh
not
yeah,
saying-
I'm gonna try out
but
these
what I'm
baselines.
pointing out is that those 3 tracks, like that Oris has just listed, like, can I not consider myself a level 4 rider if I have passed other level 4s? Do I have to pass those tracks?
These are something that the community, or like at least the trials reporter community that like we initially started with, I think 20 of us, we deliberated over months about like certain levels.
Like it's alright having baseline tracks for people to like shoot for, but like,
and I think these are really good
they
tracks.
absolutely necessary to be considered that level?
Of course not. No, I think it would be ridiculous
But-
if that was the case.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to play these, but like if you do want the rating, I guess, you know, if you
Yeah.
want that badge of honor, called the ninja level in the Discord, then you are inclined to play these tracks. And
yeah, they see that's
more-
the thing for me. Like I don't give a shit about the sort of egotistical side of things. Like I don't need the chat to know that I'm a level 4 rider. I couldn't give a fuck.
Mm.
Well,
You know?
that's fine.
Yeah.
Then the bot's not for you. So
Yeah, no, but like what I'm saying is like the bot could technically be for me, but like I'm not interested in that aspect of the bot.
what part
The
would
bot
you be more
definitely got
inclined?
its place for
at
helping
it?
low level riders like progress.
What do you want to see out of the bot more than like if you really wanted to get into it more?
I honestly like the big thing for me that like prevents me from using something like that is the effort that you have to put in. If it was automated, then I'd probably look at it, but until then, not interested.
Yeah.
Not because it's not good, because I'm sure it's like really good and it's probably really well made.
It is
But
good.
yeah, exactly. It probably
Actually,
is amazing.
And on a
But-
side note, Living Legend actually has built a bot as well, which hasn't got like not a lot of people have seen that one yet, but it's actually also really good. It's pretty much the same idea. He built it in a web app. Yeah, he uses that by himself, I think, but it's pretty good. And I will say something. I think that we absolutely should be able to rate ourselves ninja levels, and I think it's very. I think the question is how. How do we accurately do it? But like a good example would be like martial arts, for instance, like white belt, brown belt, purple belt, all that kind of thing. Like you consider yourself a purple belt or whatever belt you are, and you work your way up by completing certain tasks to become that next rank, right? And it's almost like the
that's
same
different
thing.
though. That's not the same because they
Well-
are like designated. They are made to be ranked. Whereas in trials, the difficulty is just a difficulty scale. It was never designed to be given as a rank to someone.
It's still
Purely like an
the same thing,
extension of a
though.
difficulty system. It's not the same. Whilst I understand that you might want to call yourself like a ninja level or whatever, it's definitely not comparable to something that was specifically made as an actual like, award or whatever.
I can understand what you're saying, but I think you're trying too hard to separate the two. How, like, logically, surely, like,
No, well, what I'm saying is,
it's not
I'm
the
just,
same thing.
I was just pointing out that the analogy didn't really work.
I think
I
it
have-
does. 'Cause martial arts is also a solo sport, just like you could say
No,
trials.
but
as
martial,
well.
like the belts in martial art aren't difficulties. You know what I mean? Like they're not. They are like, this is what
they
you
are.
do to earn this belt.
Well, it
If
kind
you
of
know what I mean.
is if you've ever, like,
I've
participated.
I've taken Taekwondo for years, and it is it is very very similar. Like you can't get into the next belt without completing tasks that make you that can get you into that next tier, right? Like
Yeah, but
not-
that's not a difficulty scale. Ninja ratings.
Oh, it
are
absolutely
for a
is. Like,
scale. No,
you
they're
have to-
requirements for an award.
Well,
Difficulty-
that's the thing. They make because it's a professional atmosphere. They make it a required like there's certain
Exactly.
requirements they have in place to get
yeah,
there. We don't
yeah,
have
okay.
that, but we could have that, and that's
Yeah.
that's the point. Is
Yeah.
like how
Yeah, but
how
that's
do we
that's the
have that?
thing. Like, I don't think like whilst I'm okay with you doing that, I don't. That's not what ninja levels were. Ninja levels was simply a difficulty scale.
Yeah,
whereas
but
belts are awards given for specific actions. And you could say you could
no.
create a system that uses difficulty levels to give out awards, but those
Like
awards shouldn't
the
be difficult. Like shouldn't be the same name as the difficulty scale, if that makes sense.
the title, the belt could be an award, but it's also a skill ranking. Like somebody who is two belts above someone else is way better than the person two belts below. They can do things that that person can't. Better at fighting or whatever the martial art is. Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It is a skill difference. Like someone who's black belt or second degree black belt, they're basically like the gods of Taekwondo or whatever you want to say, like the Ninja Seven Riders or something, right?
yeah, I agree. I understand what you're saying, Cabbage, but I think you're too like entrenched in the thought of ninja levels being fixed as purely a difficulty thing. I don't think.
I mean, that's what they are. They are literally a difficulty scale.
Yes, but why can't they also be something
They
else?
can, but I'm just saying
yeah,
that
that's
his
what we're saying.
analogy was wrong.
But it's not, because in his analogy, if you just apply it to ninja levels, you pass the difficulty of a ninja level 4. Therefore, you are awarded with the ninja level 4 belt.
Yeah.
I don't see what's wrong. What's wrong with that? I don't.
Nothing.
Well, yeah, but you just said they shouldn't be the same name, or they shouldn't.
Well, I mean, I'd prefer they weren't, but like, if you want to call yourself a level 2 rider or whatever, then that's fine.
Well, yeah, that's what.
I've always considered it as a rate, like a scale, basically, not like a set of like things that you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Yeah, I'm gonna cut it there. Just cut it. Just move on.
Yeah, I'm
It's
ready to
not
move
a
on
good
to
topic.
something else. I think we can all agree on a little bit more. I wanted to talk a little bit about like customization, for writer, for bike, for editor itself. Um, I don't, this is probably not gonna happen, but like in a perfect Trials world, we could build our own characters like Soul Calibur 6 style. Like that's like the type of customization that I feel like would keep people around
I think
for
that's what we might get.
a very long time with Trials. I think that would be amazing. It's like people could make some really creative types of costumes and whatnot. What do you guys think?
Depending on what objects they actually offer, you pretty much will probably be able to do that. I think with the sticker system, you can pretty much do anything.
What
the
what kind of
customization looks good.
what kind of character would you build, Cab? And anybody else?
Oh, I would
what
just
character?
I don't know. I would just have some fucking lethal. I don't know. I wouldn't go like make some like weird shit. I would just make like some sick ass like t-shirts.
Like Bruce Willis. I thought you were about to say Lethal Weapon. Like, bringing that. I think who'd your anime character be, Plop? If you could like create your own rider.
Oh, I don't know, man. I'd have to think about that.
Okay, yeah, I didn't give you much
that's a big
time to
question.
deliberate
I
on.
watch a lot of anime, so
That is a big question.
I don't know, Lorcan, RJ, what kind of character would you make if you could create any character you wanted to for your rider? What kind of like iconic figure you have?
Well, I think doesn't NBA 2K have? I think they have a feature where you can like take a picture of yourself and upload it to the game,
Ooh,
and they make
that's
your
such a good
avatar
idea.
based on that.
Yes,
And I think that would be legendary.
that would be awesome.
That
That's a
would be
really
pretty
good
cool.
idea. You hear that, Red
Personally,
Links?
if it was me, I'd just have my
No.
rider as my fusion rider, because that's what I'm used to. That's what I feel comfortable. That's what I feel plays well. I never liked the infusion, the like Ninja Woman, those kind of full suits. I think they're
Barbara.
horrendous. I can't use them. I'd just use my my fusion rider if I could do that. I don't like the whole kind of that's one thing I didn't like about the Rising beta, actually, is the aesthetic of the rider. I don't like that kind of really slim-legged. In comparison to the bike, the rider looks really small. So my brain's kind of thinking, how is this rider throwing this bike around when it's some tiny person?
You gotta
give
put
it
some
that.
sweatpants on him. Make him look like some
like,
turkey legs.
Yeah.
People feel the same way about using like bigger riders like Barbara or like
Yeah. Same.
a hazmat suit. Like they feel off
Yeah.
using stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Barbara is tough to use actually. So
And I mean, her like
Yeah.
the hitbox of her head, it like cuts like halfway through the floor, and like you're still alive. It looks really
Yeah.
strange. But then like I think of so I've watched like a lot of shout outs to Critical, you know, Penguin Zero on YouTube. I watched like the episodes where he is
yeah.
playing against people that make their own costumes on Soul Calibur 6. And you know, people are like making these giant dicks that like span across like the entire level, and like making these really vulgar like creatures and whatnot. And I think it's absolutely hilarious if that would be a possibility for trials. But I just have to probably get a different rating, I think, for the game at that point.
Yeah. I mean, there should be an option. So I'll just quickly relate this to Rocket League. There's this mod you can use in Rocket League where you can have your car look and have anything you want, right? Any decal, you can have any boost, even though on the market they cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You can have anything you want with this mod. But the only thing is, other people can't see it. So I think that would be cool if Red Links like did that, so you could have your rider look like whatever you want. But when you watched a replay of like a dick rider or whatever, it would just be like the standard rider. But you would see.
Or you get like a censored, you get like a black block.
I don't like that idea.
Covering it.
I feel like you lose the sense of like worth of your sort of gear once you sort of implement something like that.
Yeah.
I think like I feel like a good part of the actual like cosmetics will be actually like earning the things or like buying them, like buying like custom objects from other players.
Ego, as it
if
were.
That's possible. Not so much ego, just like maybe like I don't know, just
if they're achievement based, then it is slightly, yeah.
Oh, I hope there is achievement based ones.
Yeah,
I would actually like to see fucking like belt. Like let's like hypothetically, if they introduce ninjas into the main game,
yeah,
then giving out like cosmetic belts for each one that you pass. Like let's like hypothetically, if they named the ninja levels after ninja belt, then.
Or like if you passed the hardest one or something, you unlocked like something, or like belts. That would be cool.
How about what do you guys think about? So this is actually a comment that I saw from Kat a while back. It was talking about receiving like upvotes on maybe tracks to receive like certain type of gear for your bike or your rider. What do you guys think about?
That would be cool.
Yeah, if you get like an incentive to make like really awesome tracks, you receive a certain amount of votes and you get this type of gear that only like editors might receive. I think that would be kind of a cool implementation.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would like to see the return of the wrench, along with a cosmetic item for the best builders. Yep, easy.
Return of the wrench, indeed.
The wrench backpack for sick builders. Happy days.
You think there'll be any sort of like DLC for cosmetic
for it.
Some like cosmetic type of builds and whatnot?
Like cosmetic DLC could be good.
Yeah, I don't want to really get into.
I think they're probably gonna not do it as DLC, but I think they will implement new objects into loot boxes, like without saying it.
I was about to say bring up the loot box type of talk. I don't want to go like too in depth about it, but
like I've actually not even read about that or anything. How do we know that's confirmed? What?
The way in the beta.
There were loot boxes.
But like we couldn't do microtransactions in the beta though.
Yeah, there were loot boxes.
They confirmed it in the forum that there were gonna be, because there was like premium boxes in the beta that you couldn't unlock, basically. Okay. So
I don't know.
I don't
get
care.
My wallet out right now.
Yeah, I don't really care too much about it either. I think if it's if it's based around like cosmetic stuff, that's totally cool with me. Like they gotta make a living, they gotta make money somewhere as well. I think as the game, I don't want to don't want them to turn into like money grubbers or anything and have.
Too late for that.
But yeah, it's the loot box controversy is.
I think the sticker system is good enough to the
Yeah,
point
that's
where
pretty
you
good.
wouldn't even need to buy that much.
Yeah, because you can make your own
Like,
stickers.
you can exactly. You can
That's
make
the
basically
customization
anything.
that we're gonna see. That might be really interesting. You know, you can layer I don't know what 100 different stickers to like onto like
If you
one
could
specific
create
thing.
designs, that would just be like next level shit.
Yeah, but loot boxes in general, like I just had a big controversy with it actually affecting the gameplay is like the main concern I have for them. Like, you know, if we had statistics to like, oh, your grip is 10% better if you attach this item, or if you have this one wheel, like, dude, could you imagine? Like, just
They wouldn't.
no,
They're
it'd
not
ruin the
that
game.
They
stupid.
wouldn't dare.
No, they wouldn't dare because gone.
That's how it
like
is
that.
in Frontier, though. That's why a lot of the
Yeah.
top Frontier players kind of gave up on the game or were quite upset because essentially they released a couple new bikes that you could get just by buying them, and then you could get faster times than all the previous world records on those bikes. But I think they did like different leaderboards for different bikes, so I think that kind of sorted it.
I think
But
it's
still
a
kind of ruined the
different.
game.
Yeah, but it's a different atmosphere. Mobile, like mobile
Oh,
games
yeah,
are
for sure.
built to be like that. You know.
Yeah, they are.
I
Yeah.
think
A little more
console
accessible, I think,
players
at
have got
that.
like a different expectation.
Yeah.
And whilst it's definitely going that way, I don't think they'd be that stupid.
Yeah, it'd be a bit
I
much.
mean, you spend like £40 to buy the game, and then you have all the DLCs or whatever the retail price would be. The mobile game's free, I think, or like £1.
Yeah. There was actually there was a picture about that they posted on Facebook or something, wasn't there? I don't know how old it was, but it was like something about Ryzen, and it was like a Frontier picture. I can't remember.
If you
I'll
guys
shut up.
you guys have anything else to add on to like the customization? Did I miss anything that's like super important for you guys? Because I was ready to move on to another.
No, I actually wanted to, if we could move on quickly to the timeout restart topic.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to get your guys' ideas first on what you guys would actually consider a restart and actually consider a timeout. And yeah, so.
I think, Jesus Christ, there's no objective like time I would call for when you restart. It's a timeout. The way I usually base it is if I think I could have passed the track with the
Yeah.
amount of time left.
Yeah.
Or, like with yeah, that's usually what I go by.
Yeah, me too, actually.
I don't think it's possible to just set a time. Every track's different.
Yeah.
Every obstacle's different. For example, I was playing Within, and I restarted on checkpoint 3 at like 10 minutes. Maybe I would have timed out, maybe I wouldn't if I continued, but I knew my chances were way less if I, hadn't restarted. So I restarted, but who knows?
Well, and say like Scott said, less than 15 minutes is a restart, but some tracks are like 20 checkpoints long or something, or like versus a 5 checkpoint long. Time is not, you can't really use it all the time. If every track was 7 checkpoints long, then maybe, but
yeah,
that's not the case. So
I feel like it's more just about the intention. Like if you're restarting because you know you're gonna fail, then maybe that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing a track that's like at your skill level, one that you could easily time out on, and you restart on checkpoint 3 at like 15 minutes or something, like you're probably restarting because it's very unlikely you can pass it given the next 15 minutes. But if you're just going for a zero fault run and you restart on checkpoint 3 because you faulted, like that's obviously you're not going to time out.
For sure.
With Makalu, it's hard to determine like that for me because I could literally say like I restarted like 50 times on the middle of the track when it like in the first week or two that I was perfecting the first half, but that track is 17 checkpoints long. The obstacles get pretty redonkulous like second half of that level.
One idea I had
really
was to maybe like even just mix them both together and just kind of just have restarts only and not even timeouts. Like if you ever restart if you restart on CP2 because you spent 10 minutes there, or you time out on the second last checkpoint, like either way, you're restarting because you were going to time out. So maybe they are just the same thing in the end. Like maybe they all are just restarts.
But they're not really, because I wanted to speak on what Doughnut was saying about that track that I can't remember the name of. But basically, I think what you were saying is that like you were restarting in the middle of the track because you knew that you weren't where you thought you should have been.
Yeah, I had like a timer
But
on
that
myself
doesn't
for it.
necessarily mean that you would have timed out. You were just timing out, just resetting because you knew you weren't sort of progressing maybe fast enough to like guarantee that you could do the later checkpoints.
Yeah, it was strange on
Is
my
it fair
pass too.
to say that that is the same as a timeout?
I mean, I think it kind of is because you are pressing the restart button for a reason, and that reason is that you don't think you can pass it.
It's not that he doesn't think he can pass it, it's that he hasn't progressed fast enough to where he would have maybe been last time he played or whatever.
What if
it doesn't necessarily mean that he thinks he's going to time out?
What if you consider a timeout being like on the last obstacle only? Would that make any more sense?
No, because you could time out anywhere on the track.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're more likely to restart it like instead on other obstacles, except for the last CP. Like if I was on literally the last climb of Makalu, and I time out, with 1 second left, I'm right at the top. I just didn't jump off in time. That's a timeout in my opinion.
If you think about it like this, if you think that if you restart at 15 minutes because you are like very sure that you can't pass it, like we just talked about, at that point you're making the decision, okay, I'm probably timing out, so I'm restarting. If you didn't think you were going to time out, then you should just keep going, right? So if you make that decision, okay, I'm restarting now, you're basically giving up your run. You're basically saying, okay, this is just a timeout for me, that's why I'm restarting. Right, you kind of make
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that sometimes you restart just because you don't want to potentially waste time, even though it is very possible that you could pass.
Well, exactly. That is it. But you are giving it up. So you're still giving up the run, though.
Yeah, but
right? You're making that decision that it's more likely that I'll time out than it is that I'll pass it.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't think I was gonna pass Makalu.
How do you go about it?
I didn't think I was gonna pass Makalu on like my pass. I got to the overhang CP that always haunted my dreams for like a month straight, and then I got past that at like I want to say like the 19 or 20 minute mark, and typically in my head I was like, okay, I need to pass this by like 15 minutes because like I gotta have at least a few extra for the last few, and I ended up busting out the last few checkpoints like insanely quick. Like I ended up doing the last checkpoint on the first try. So you can never really count yourself out. It's so hard to determine. Like, the restarts
the check. When you do hit the restart button, you are giving it up. If you don't hit the restart button, you're not giving it up, and then you can still pass. But if you do hit the restart button, you have no chance to pass because you've restarted.
Yeah, this reminds me of a comment I saw RJ post on Key's pass of Luscious, where he passes checkpoint 3 of Luscious at 15 minutes, right? Ridiculous time, no one in their right mind would still be there. You'd restart. Number 1, checkpoint 3 is one of the easiest checkpoints, and number 2, the last half of that track is the hardest part. Yeah. But he still passed the track, passing checkpoint 3 at 15 minutes. And RJ commented, this is why you potentially should never restart. And yeah, I think restarts within reason are simply just you making the conscious decision that your chances of passing are so slim, it's not worth it. And so, you basically have timed out, essentially.
And you don't want to call it a timeout. That's why you're pressing restart.
So what about when like
are way higher?
Sorry.
No.
What about say like when I was playing Todd's track?
Yeah.
I would get to checkpoint 2, and if I didn't pass it within a minute, I would restart. But that wouldn't even be close to me saying like I'm probably going to time out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that restart still a timeout? Like, realistically, I'm like less than 2 minutes into the track.
Yeah,
And the only reason I'm restarting is because I want to get the early CPs out of the way as fast as possible. Not because I know that I'm going to time out, just because I didn't fucking pass checkpoint 2 in like 60 seconds. You know what I mean?
it's not about knowing you're going to time out. It's about having the awareness and realizing that your chances of passing are so slim to the point where it's worth restarting over. So you knew that at your current skill level and the difficulty of the track, if you had continued and maybe passed CP2 at 5 minutes, you knew your chances of passing were slim to the point it's not worth it. And I think
I don't know. I feel like, especially early in tracks, people just set a time that they want to do stuff by, regardless of whether like they don't even like consider the fact that like, oh, if I don't do it, I'm probably going to time out. Like, that's not what people are thinking when they do it. They just want to set a time for early checkpoints because they know that, you know, if you pass them quickly, you know, you do have a higher chance of passing the track. But like, it's not really what people think about when they do it. They just sort of do it because it's so early into the track.
It's a big difference between if you're playing a track to pass or to get a good score. So, right, like if you're just speed running a career track, you're going to restart thousands of times potentially without ever timing out, without any chance of timing out. So you have to be able to make that differentiation there on whether it's a track that you're struggling to pass or something that you can pass every time. First of all,
yeah, that's the other thing, isn't it? Like, you got to take into consideration.
This argument only occurs when it's a track that you're struggling to pass. I don't think it's, you know, relevant on tracks that.
I've got a question. I guess my real question about this entire topic is like, why the fuck does anyone care? Like that's like my question.
Well,
like, why is this even a topic? I guess
it matters a lot actually, and there's
does it though? Does it matter?
Yes, it does.
For a lot of people, it does.
Like seeing how much time people are investing in the tracks.
Two things. It really tells you two things. The first thing
it tells me one thing, but I'll keep that to myself and let you speak.
The one thing it can tell you is how difficult the track likely is. Like for say RJ timed out X amount of times.
Yeah, but that RJ is. It doesn't tell you that anymore if you change it. If that makes sense. Like, it's never really told you because of like the fact that like people have had timeouts and restarts. As soon as you remove timeouts and then switch it to restarts completely, it sort of loses value in that respect.
Well, that's the thing. The other reason why it's important is because riders like you know, it might be an egotistical thing in a sense, but it's also just like people in almost every video description of a trials video, people put their timeouts and restarts in there to show how difficult the track was for them, right? Like if they struggled on it or they didn't struggle on it.
You see, here's my issue with that, right? Like, okay, let's say you're like going for your first level 7 pass. You time out like 10 times, yeah? Now let's say Lorcan goes for his level 7 pass on a different track, comes back weeks later after he's passed like 10 sevens, and he plays the same track but doesn't time out. Is he better than you just because he didn't time out on that track and you timed out?
I don't think it's something
because the reality is
compare yourself if you're better than others.
It's 100% relevant to where a specific person's skill level is when they play the track, which is not
that's true.
else. It's literally not even useful to like boost your own ego, because I could get to a level 7 and then I could go back and play a level 5 and be like, yes, I fucking didn't even time out once.
Yeah,
and I'm the best person ever. And then what does it mean? It means nothing.
No, it does mean, because if RJ say RJ was just level 7, timed out 10 times on sabotage, then everyone else who sees that is going to understand that RJ's skill level is sort of just getting into 7s, right? But if he comes back and does it later in zero timeouts sabotage, then we all know that he's a lot better now, right? And that, right? It's a big difference between 0 and 10, right? Yeah, likely.
I think also you can use it to compare yourself to your peers. Like that's.
But you can't though. That's the thing, because unless you are playing it at the exact same skill level, the same track at the same skill level, then
that's why I use the word peers. That's the definition of peer. People next
Yeah, but
to you.
that never happens to anyone. Like, two people are
does,
never the
though.
exact same skill level and then play the same track.
Yeah, but you don't have to be the exact same. Like that's
Well, you do,
that's just...
otherwise it's
Well,
sort of
no.
irrelevant.
Well, you've been in calls with myself, Marple, and Scott. We're around the same skill level. Sure, we're not exactly the same. Some might be better than others, but we're all within the same realm of skill. We can all pass similar things. And if Marple passes something in 0 timeouts and me and Scott take 4, we can kind of come to the conclusion that either 2 things: he's better than us, or he performed better on that one track. And
Yeah, that's the thing.
it's still
It's-
useful information, though. Well,
Yeah, it is.
if you want to know who's better, obviously, if you don't, then it doesn't matter. So yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is like, I don't think timeout is how you determine who's the best player.
Well,
Then how would
maybe
you
not
suggest?
maybe not the way, but it's
It was
one of the.
consistency.
It's a factor.
Yeah, it's
Like
a
how
Everything's
You
a
see,
factor.
I think it's not a factor. You see, this is where we all disagree, I guess. I don't consider it a factor at all.
okay,
I
well,
personally,
Why?
I personally don't really care.
Factor, then?
It's a trend.
I don't really care when I put videos up every blue moon or so. Like I don't really remember like the exact amount of timeouts restarts because Kalu took me forever. Like it's really dependent on like I think the grind itself is just the most important thing, and that it's nice to compare these times, the timeouts and whatnot to people, but it's like all friendly type of competition to like try to edge out amongst one another. But yeah, I don't know, I'm not like a huge fan of putting that in my videos either, but I see what you guys are saying.
It's too relevant to where you are in your current sort of skill. You can't compare someone's timeouts on a track and then someone else's timeouts on the same track unless they happen to be like exactly the same in skill level when they play it.
Cabby, what would you suggest then is the best way then to compare riders' skill levels?
I mean, there's a million ways that you can do it, and how many timeouts you get on a track isn't one of them.
So, like, what are
What
at
is
least
that?
one or
Well, I mean,
two then?
what in what terms are we calling someone the best? Like consistency or just the hardest track passed? Because well, there's one, the hardest track passed. Or if you want consistency, play multiplayer.
I think that's just so untrue. Like, I understand what you're saying. Of course, you have to define like the definition of the best, but if the definition of the best is consistency, play multiplayer is quite.
Yeah, well, you're definitely not going to get anyone's consistency from timeouts.
Well, yeah, you are, because
Yeah, you are.
yeah, if RJ and GT4, sorry to use this example, RJ, because I know you don't like it, but if RJ and GT4, who you could argue are similar skill levels, if they play the same track and GT4 passes it,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying though. You see, that's the point I'm making. You can
What?
only do it when two people are the same skill level. Telling someone your timeouts on a track in like a video or whatever is literally irrelevant to everyone else, unless you happen to be playing the track against a person at the same skill level. Like it means like me reading in RJ's description or whatever that he timed out 10 times. It doesn't tell me anything about his skill, really.
It does to me.
It does to me too. Like,
yeah.
But no, it doesn't.
Very
Because
I think we can agree to disagree. I
when
think
he first started, he would have been worse than what he is when he passed it.
I think we can agree to disagree on this, you guys, and move on to another topic. I think
I'm happy to move on.
I think I think it's time to move on to another topic. Like,
I mean,
this
that
is
was a dumb topic. I'm just gonna put that out there.
This is a
I
pretty big
think it's a
controversy,
fine topic.
and that's
I feel
fine.
like there's no reason for that to ever be discussed anywhere, ever.
Yeah, but
you entertain the conversation, so
yeah, I did, but just for the the crowd.
I want to move on to another pressing matter. So this is a comment that we received in a YouTube video of the last podcast. This is by Substacks. So this question was, what could the core community and Red Links do to keep people more invested in trials? And I know we've kind of talked about that with Trials Reporter Bot and other resources and stuff. People, I think, have a tough time transitioning, maybe even into ninjas themselves. What can we do to like expand upon like getting people really invested, or like, you know, introducing these types of series that maybe are more along the lines of like, you know, ninja tutorials or like specific techniques, and like, you know, maybe referencing people to like specific tracks that work on like one individual skill to like really expand upon. What are you guys' thoughts? How do we get the community like more invested, involved?
Well, I think what Red Links could do is just communicate with the community a lot more than they do now, as well as update the games, you know, because they stopped with Fusion after like a year or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's two good ways.
Yeah, I think doing like, okay, so this is a really big time commitment that I've thought about a lot, of just making tutorials for like baseline tracks, for baseline ninja tracks like 1 through 4. I think would be really cool, to do something like, you know, Professor Fat Shady, and going over like literally each obstacle in a DP, and just breaking it down really in depth, doing all sorts of like slow mo editing types of tools to like really, I don't know, fine tune people's skills. Like I haven't watched one of Professor Fat Shady's videos in a long time. Um, he does all the extremes and whatnot, and kind of walks through that with people. What do you guys think about that? Like, I I, I don't feel like I want to be the only person to like be making a tutorial like that. Like, I think it's something that all of us can do, and then some, with like the ninja community in particular. And then there could be a totally different tangent on like people doing this for speedrunning and for building, and like have those 3 sections come together. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I think, well, if we're talking about getting red links involved, Blubby brought up a great point when we were talking the other day. He said, kind of a reason why he thinks red links wouldn't get involved is because the percentage of riders that excel above extreme. And of course, if Red Links did like a good job in guiding players after Extreme into ninjas, then I think it would be great to have these tutorials. And you know, with the Discord and the community as it is, I think you'd definitely have a lot of help and a lot of room to create kind of tutorials and in-depth tutorials. So I think it all just kind of depends on Rising. I think if Rising's a big hit, if we get like, you know, a better player base, if the Discord grows to like maybe even 1,000,
Mm.
then I think, yeah, for sure these tutorials will be great, and I think everybody should like chip in, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would love the help from you guys, especially. Like I would love to do, you know, basic intermediate stuff, but you know, I'm not gonna be the one that probably goes over, you know, level 5 plus ninjas perfectly at this point in
Yeah.
my trials life cycle. But um yeah, like being able to split it up into, you know, either go over one specific technique for a few minutes, go over a bunch of tracks, I think was another suggestion that somebody gave me. I forgot
Yeah.
who exactly said that. But yeah, like what okay, so what's a good track for me? Like stationaries were extremely hard to expand upon, and I think people keep asking for stationary tutorials, and
Shane's.
it's, yeah, Shane has one, and I think there's, I don't know, probably a couple others out there.
Yeah.
Um, but like it doesn't. I mean, that was like in the editor, I think, with Shane. But like, what other tracks are out on Fusion now that can help? Station a Tier, I think, was like one of the first ones I went into
Yeah.
with stationaries, and that was a very hard one to get into stationaries, and I would have to watch the replay over and over and over again to like
Yeah.
really get down what are the button inputs for that kind of stuff. And
Nutritious.
but yeah, like you guys have any other specific tracks that like are focused on either um stationaries, maybe working on I don't know, front wheel back wheel, like really basic front wheel back wheel stuff. I'm sure that you could find like the 50 CP front wheel back wheel, like a great one to like really get consistent with that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really like the one CP types of tracks that like focus on like one type of aspect that you can practice in many
Yeah.
different ways.
Groundhog.
Groundhog
If
Day.
I'm being like 100% honest, I think the best track, obviously it's not a track, but it's the editor. If you want to learn something, if you're struggling with something, obviously you know what you're struggling with. Use the editor, build a front wheel platform, build a back wheel platform. Maybe that's not like easy to do, so maybe there should be tutorials out there for the editor.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think that is the best place to learn techniques. Replays, obviously, and tracks themselves are, probably equally as good. But for me, it was the editor, learning how to use my front wheel and how to use my like back wheel for squishies and stuff. Definitely.
Sweet. RJ, do you think you'd ever try to do like a tutorial, like just do a straight up walkthrough of like you showing your replay of you zeroing like level 5s, level 6s?
I've done stuff like that in the past, not currently on YouTube, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna do stuff like that on Rising. I'm planning on it.
Yeah, because it's really nice to get, I think, a broader range of thoughts with all of these kinds of techniques. Um, I make fun of myself a lot for saying that I like to make obstacles way harder than they should be, and then like I'll kind of like spark a new idea for an obstacle, mess around with it, but um, I don't know. I think you three could probably go over a lot more of the tutorials on like the most simple way to basically get past this obstacle.
Yeah. This what you just said kind of reminds me of something I wanted to bring up. So uh, Key, who's a relatively new like rider to the scene, I guess, he passed Luscious, and in his replay at the end of checkpoint 5, he sits down on what is supposed to be a really hard small squishy, like up to a vertical wall, and he sits back on it because it's possible and easier to sit back. And so after watching that, I just thought, fair enough, he's done that. But if his sole goal is to only pass the track and not improve, then surely that's more detrimental. If he were to actually do the obstacle by doing the hard technique, surely he would get better and especially future proof himself, because that technique is very prevalent in the harder tracks. And so I just wanted to know, like, what you guys think. Are you the type of player where you don't like kind of scheme things, like you do them the hard way, or do you just like pass the track and you don't really?
I generally would do it the intended way, like
Yeah.
almost always. Luscious, I did do the sit back thing as well, but
Yeah.
I had also passed that checkpoint multiple times with the squishy. So I just did the lean back technique because I was already on my 9th timeout and I was really sick of grinding it and I just
Yeah.
wanted to kind of get it over with. So that's why I did the lean back. But yeah, generally I would do it the intended way for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
100% agree. Yeah.
They just accidentally run into different ways to do stuff, and then like saving is like a whole different. That's a whole other story. Like you might be able to save on stuff like RJ, and be able to still pass a 90-degree climb by like saving it, like pixel perfect grab or whatever. But yeah, um, I think I don't know. You guys want to move on to the next one, or does anybody else have a different topic?
I'm happy for the move on.
All right, I motion that. Um, so this is okay. So I really love this topic. I think some of you have probably heard about this one before. Trials Royale. This was a forum post that Jamesy had. I talked to him in my stream actually, like I don't know, maybe end of last, no, maybe fall of last year. I think he posted it around like August or September. But basically, Trials Royale. This is Okay, so I'm just gonna read like what he posted for the forum. A certain amount of players join a game, and then he didn't really specify. So I was thinking maybe I don't know what, just like a regular multiplayer session that we have now. Maybe it's 16 players, maybe it's 32. Maybe we could put
How much is
100 players.
possible?
Yeah, maybe we could put 100 players on the same driving line, but I don't think that's feasible. And you're put on like an infinite trials like skill game type of track where it's like a randomly generated obstacle after each checkpoint, and the level behind you is falling. Like it's almost like a side scroller type of aspect that you might find in Super Mario. Um, I think this would be a phenomenal skill game even if it was just for individuals. If you could put it into multiplayer somehow, that would be, I think, game changing. To be able to, you start at beginner obstacles, and you can progress all the way up to say Ninja level 8 obstacles. Like pretty doubtful that'll happen, because you only get one fault. If you fail, you're out, and you can watch the other riders perform and whatnot. But you just have one fault, one life. Like go through this infinite trials randomly generated track with thousands of different obstacles to try to get past. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think it would be super fun, honestly.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely.
Is it
It would be fun, yeah.
is it possible though? Like, can somebody make like a skill game that is like Infinite Trials, but then add in all these hundreds of thousands of different obstacles? Like, how long would it? It would take so long.
You
to,
could.
like,
It's
make
been
that.
done, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
Infinite Trials basically does that, where it generates the obstacles.
Oh, so actually
Yeah, it generates each block. It doesn't just use set
Yeah.
sequences.
Hmm.
So
So-
it's very doable.
yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say very doable, because the logic for that shit's insane, but
Yeah, I remember you saying that Infinite
Yeah.
Trials is like a mess.
it's definitely doable.
Well, I guess if you just let's say you use I guess this is how Infinite Trials does it. You get, let's say you choose 10 objects, and you can set rules where object 1 can only follow object
Yeah,
2
that's
after
basically how
X.
they do it, I think.
Yeah.
I haven't actually looked at it properly, but that's probably roughly how they do it.
Like, do you think it'd be better? So, should there be like a time limit on like each checkpoint before like the level starts falling apart behind you, or like dissolving or whatever behind you? Like, would that make more sense? Because it'd be really hard to make it a side scroller where you have to constantly keep up with like screen, and if you go off screen at all, like you're done.
Yeah,
Doesn't
that's essentially what cubicle space is, right? Sorry, RJ.
I was gonna say there's like a challenge in one of the base, or it's like a DLC track in Career that like a laser follows you or something like that.
Mhm.
You have a certain amount of time to get through before the laser like burns you,
Yeah,
something like that.
it'd be the
Yeah,
exact
that's-
same way with this
It's the
Trials Royale.
Circles of Hell, isn't it?
No, but that's kind of another.
Yeah, similar kind of.
Wait, what was the question?
I think Doughnut was saying how would you like a side scroller type of track where I mean, Doughnut, was you saying it's made for multiplayer purposes? So let's say you had 4 people on the track, and when 2 people pass a certain checkpoint, the 2
Yeah.
people left on that checkpoint kind of fall off the map and fall off.
You could have it just disappearing like it was on the thread, but you wouldn't necessarily have to see it. You wouldn't all have to be within the screen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you were at the front, you don't necessarily have to see the track falling behind you.
Yeah, I think it would.
Yeah.
It might just be better to have a time limit on each obstacle, and if you can't pass it, then okay, like you're done.
feel
Like
like-
the level falls beneath you, and then everybody moves on, like teleports to the next obstacle, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. The teleporter, I think, is
It's like an elimination timer would
exactly.
be fine, I
It'd
think.
be elimination type game.
Just start at 60 seconds. Every minute, person in last place. Bye.
Yeah.
How about
Exactly.
instead of every minute, could you do it so let's say you had 8 people on a track, and depending on the amount of players, once the second to last person passed that obstacle, the last one, is gone, and then until there's only one left. So if you do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I'm getting that. I get what you're putting down there. Rafflemaster says he's actually making something like that, except you're allowed default. Well, I am extremely interested in that.
Making something like what?
Like what we're describing, a Trials Royale, where
it won't be multiplayer though, will it?
If it's a skill game, it can't be.
It's gonna be a skill
You
game,
can't make
probably.
multiplayer skill games, though. Not properly anyway.
And Anaerobic Monkey, he's asking if so if somebody gets too far ahead, will it start just killing people? I think they'll just like take that aspect out and just have people pass the obstacle, and then they're safe, and you have to wait for like 30 minutes or a minute for everybody else. Or if you're last place, then you're just automatically out. If you're going through like the beginner and extreme obstacles, it's gonna be really close. And then once you start getting into like any sort of ninja obstacle, then it might be a completely different story.
Yeah, for me, like the obvious example is, like I mentioned before. Do you know what cubicle space is?
Yeah.
It's a skill game in the later DLCs in Korea where it's literally just a cube that keeps spinning, and then like an obstacle pops up.
I do remember that.
And obviously, if you take too long, then the physics activate and you drop off the cube.
Yeah.
Imagine a multiplayer where instead of everybody's playing it, well, everybody's on the same cube essentially. Obviously, you're not bumping into each other because that would be impossible. And so that's literally it. You could use ninja obstacles, you could use whatever you want, but everybody plays the cube and practices it. Or even you could have randomly occurring obstacles.
Yeah, I think the randomly generated would be a really cool aspect.
Yeah.
Randomly generated is like a lot harder to do well than you might think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
How to go about that. But Raffle
like
actually was saying,
especially at ninja level difficulty, like if you let like a computer create a ninja level for you, like it's probably not going to be a good obstacle.
Yeah.
I misread Rafflemaster's comment. He's making a track where you're just pressured to move forward instead, not really the Trials Royale.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the speedrun god. You have 13 seconds to pass the checkpoint, and if you don't, you die.
I like the speedrunning god types of seat that Mr. Fook is making.
Yeah, I like the idea behind them. It's kind of brought up by Ghetto, wasn't it? In his video, he said, I wonder what ninja level a speedrunning track would be, where you literally have to get a world record in order to pass the track. And so I guess that's kind of the idea.
How good the other players are.
Yeah, well, it's all
Yeah, that's true. Actually, definitely.
I actually remember that video, and I'm pretty sure I wrote a big lengthy comment about why I disagreed with him. But that's probably no surprise at this point.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Jukes. I'm not going to talk about it.
It was a good video.
Speaking of Rafflemaster, though, there was another comment in the last YouTube video, kind of switching up topics yet again, real quick on you guys. But the question from Rafflemaster was: do the highest ninja level tracks have to have long CPs compared to like level 2, level 3, or whatever? Or is it possible to build more technically challenging obstacles without them becoming inconsistent?
Yes, but obstacles can only be so hard. Like,
before the
climb can only be so hard. You can only push a climb so hard before you have to make it longer in order to increase the difficulty.
Yeah, there's only essentially Cabbage is like right. There's only
you
essentially
sound surprised.
Well, no, I'm not surprised. It's just a fact. There's only so many variations, or there's only like the physics essentially are the limits to the game. There's only so much you can do to a wall or a stationary or whatever.
You can only make a wall so steep. You can only make a squishy so far. Like there definitely is a limit. And with that limit being the maximum, like as basically like a wall being as steep as humanly possible would basically be the limit of the game. And then from there, you just have to make it longer and longer and longer and longer. there's really no other option. You can't make it steeper, right? You can't make the stationary longer. Like
Yeah.
at some point you're just stuck. And
What follows that is
However,
is then
sorry, carry on.
the length of the checkpoint. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. Like, I think that like the current state of high level ninjas generally tend towards longer checkpoints, whereas
Yeah.
you could still get the same difficulty track by doing more shorter checkpoints that are harder individual objects per checkpoint, like in the checkpoints.
Yeah.
If
And
that
I
makes
have
sense.
and I'm pretty sure I have the exact reason why we don't have that, and that is simply because the builders that we have at the moment who are building are like building the higher level tracks are not necessarily able to build or test these really really hard things. So they're just building longer stuff that they can actually test properly.
Yeah, you can just throw down a bunch of test CPs.
Yeah, like they're not gonna like be able to test Odious. Like it's just like I probably could hardly test that track. Like so that's why I wouldn't build that track.
Yeah.
You kind of have to have the highest level ninjas building the tracks, but the highest level ninjas are playing the tracks, not building very much at least sometimes. But
So
yeah, generally, yeah.
a bit more of a subjective question here. So what do you guys consider like more fun for obstacles? Do you like the ones that are like really long CPs, like really grindy types of CPs, or do you find the short and really technically harder checkpoints to be more fun, or do you find like both of them combined, like some really long, once you get to like ninja level 7 and 8s, you find like the really long CPs with the added effect of really technically hard obstacles to be fun? Like, what do you guys choose? I guess over those three options, like to combine them, one or the other.
Don't really think I'm in a position to have an opinion.
Of course.
No, you do have
You
opinion,
play the
Cab.
game.
What do you think?
Yeah, but the tracks that I played generally don't have long CPs.
That's fair enough.
I guess they could be long to you though.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer
No, but
like
in general, yeah.
I
Sorry.
prefer just like medium length. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like it depends what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play something that's pushing the limits to get better, then you kind of have no choice but to play something really hard. Like Nacrel. Nacrel's like the perfect example of short CPs that are really hard. And that track I am struggling on a lot right now. And it's not like to the limits, but it's it's getting there. It's probably not even close to be honest, but
Yeah.
it still feels really hard.
I definitely, at the highest level, I tend to like longer CPs. Like, if you think of odious CPs, they're really short and just packed with the hardest possible obstacles thought of,
Yeah.
and I just don't find that enjoyable whatsoever.
Yeah, I definitely fit into that camp, but in a way that, for me, I cannot find anything that challenges me really fun. Like, for me, for something to be fun in trials, it has to be something that I can just kind of flow through with ease.
Yeah.
I don't find level 7's fun or level 8's fun. I wouldn't describe them as that. Some level 6's, yeah.
Anything that's painful is not really fun, and that's why like
Yeah.
the short technical hard stuff, it hurts the hands. It's mentally mentally exhausting. Like that's why it's not fun, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess longer, easier tracks are generally more fun, just because they're more relaxing.
I guess I'm a bit of an anomaly then. I like to actually play those really short, weird obstacles. Like you guys have seen me, I'm a huge fan of like going into like easier 1 CP tracks and trying to go for like goofy world records and like doing some crazy squishes and slides on stuff. And then I always have to revert back to Dreary Nights because that track took me such a long time to get down. Those are pretty short obstacles that are really strange and pretty technical that I had never seen before. And I don't know, it's a lot more mentally draining for me to go through a back wheel only climb track for a minute straight instead of like a 10 to 15 second really odd it can be front wheel, back wheel, technical, whatever.
Yeah.
Just I like the oddities that can be, I don't know, put forth instead of like these really consistent. But I think it is important to work on both aspects. I've been working on the back wheel control so much more and working on specifically back wheel only tracks, and I'm actually enjoying them a lot more just because like I'm actually passing them now. It's taken a lot of grinding to really like those consistent types of obstacles. I don't know. I've always been like a sprinter, like actually in real life, with football, baseball, like I just like sprinting. I never like long distance running. So maybe my personality trait is like somehow, you know, leading itself into gaming that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like checkpoints. I don't know. I used this word before, but that don't have flow. So, for example, I hate endoing at the start of checkpoints. Right, that's one of my
Yeah,
biggest.
me too.
Same.
Why do I
A
have
weird
to
pet
do
peeve.
that? I want to just go into the
Okay.
checkpoint. I like checkpoints that flow well. That don't have many kind of awkward stopping points or yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I
Abhorrent
agree.
endo hops.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on before we end the podcast, one more topic for me is how do you guys actually define inconsistency or consistency in a track? And I bring this up because actually a couple of days ago, Mustang Sally was in a chat and he said something which I thought was really clever and really made a lot of sense. And that is, he said, how can an obstacle be inconsistent? Um, or how can an obstacle with no variables yield inconsistent results? And his point was that the only variable is the rider, thus only the rider is inconsistent on the checkpoint. The checkpoint is not inconsistent itself. So unless the obstacle had tire glitches or something that is inconsistent, like how can you actually say the obstacle is inconsistent, right? Like that's my question.
I disagree with that a lot.
Well, that's kind of just a statement of fact, though, because unless excluding all variables like tire glitches, so things that aren't in your control, an obstacle cannot, by definition, be inconsistent because it is.
It can though, because there's a lot more variables than just the player. So
Like
say
what?
That's what we're saying, excluding all of those variables.
Yeah, but you can't exclude those because they're part of the difficulty. I think he said excluding tire glitches
No.
because that's sort of like a
Tire glitches is a common one, yeah, and I mean you don't like say, oh, like it's very rare that the difficulty of a checkpoint increases because of the tire glitches, like
no, but you were surely you weren't saying that there are no other variables other than the player.
Well, no, that's not. But what would they be?
Technically, I guess the player is in control of everything that's happening, but realistically, right? Let's say you have a throttle checkpoint.
Yeah.
You're holding like right, yeah, and you're using the trigger to throttle up the wall.
Yeah.
How many variables are in that realistically?
Yeah, but that's
just you.
Yeah, but how many things do you have to do?
I don't understand what you're saying.
You have to move the trigger, yeah, to climb the wall.
Yeah, you do.
You're holding right, so that's not hard. You're using throttle.
Yeah.
Now, if you take a slide, what do you have to do on a slide? You have to throttle,
I see what you're saying.
You have to have the perfect stick movement. So now you've added a completely different difficulty into the obstacle.
Yeah,
like
I see
holding right is not the same as actually having to balance on a slide while moving fast and throttling and braking. There's so much more.
Yeah.
The timing is a lot different on slides. I totally get what you mean
And
by
it's
that.
the same with bounces. That's why people generally say that slides and bounces are inconsistent. They're not inconsistent. They're just
but that's where the wording. That's where the wording would change, right? Because you're absolutely right. That might be the answer to the question. Inconsistent checkpoints.
Master, you're a dick.
Inconsistent checkpoints are checkpoints that require multiple inputs to be used at once or something like that. Whatever the answer is, but it's still not the slide that's inconsistent. It's you that's inconsistent because there are players that can be more consistent than others, right?
there's a lot more to take care of when doing a slide than when doing like a throttle climb.
Right. So
Yeah.
that exactly that could
Like
be the
you could
answer.
boil
Right?
anything down to like, oh, you are inconsistent, but the reality is certain things are harder to do than other things. Therefore, they are harder to be consistent at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's why my initial answer before that, because I didn't even consider that, but I do agree, was I think the definition of inconsistent is kind of off meta. Like, for example, Blubby finds slides and bounces very consistent because that's essentially all he plays. You know, obviously he's very good at other things, but there's a reason why he's consistent at those and majority of the ninja community aren't. That's because he spends majority of his riding time on those things, and so he finds them consistent, whereas most
Yeah,
of
that's
the ninja
another thing. Like people
don't.
generally don't practice bounces and slides as much as like throttle
Yeah.
stuff. And I would definitely say that throttle is a lot easier as well. So yeah, that's why throttle can be done like incredibly consistently by like any top level player, like
Yeah.
within reason. But like a slide, you know, it's hit or miss. You know, you could sit there for fucking 10 minutes
Hit or
trying to do a
miss.
slide.
Hit or miss.
Yeah. I mean, of course with throttle, it's not just throttle though. It's like the angle of your bike. You need to stick with the wall at, and all those things. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Using the left trigger.
of course, yeah, the whole wavy
Or
front
sorry,
wheel.
the not trigger, the left joystick.
Who would have thought, Ben? By the
Yeah, I
way,
think
I was
no, you go.
joking, Raffle Master, when I called you a dick, obviously. But you did call me out, expect me to have some fucking shit answer. And then I just fucking, boom, left hook to the face. And you actually agreed with us. So yeah, you're a dick.
I think a good way to end the episode is one last comment that was made by Graxos. So he wanted to see a little more discussion from us regarding the release of Rising and like what known features we know thus far that we're most excited about, and maybe like predictions for like other unannounced like DLC and like any maybe some negatives that like we might, I don't know, be worried about with Rising. Like what are you guys, I guess I'll start it off with like saying one of the most exciting things for me is I think customization. I think we talked a lot about that, and maybe getting more into the editor. It sounds like it's gonna be quite a big deal because I don't know how many obstacles they said is gonna be in it, but it's basically gonna be everything from HD through Fusion with thousands of different obstacles to be able to mess around with, and customizing the rider and the bike is something I'm incredibly excited for. All the different stickers that you can make out of it. What do you guys say? I think
Someone say something.
Ab, how about you? I'll lend it over to you. I mean,
Shit.
I think you've already talked about.
I zoned out during like half of that.
I think you already discussed how like you're excited for the building aspect, like the editor aspect.
Definitely. You see, what I'm excited for, and it's not like guaranteed. I am hoping that there is like something big that they haven't announced yet.
Big.
That will something big. Hang on, type in chat.
Like big cab, like
big. Something big, yeah.
Big for like obstacle wise stuff, or big.
No, like just a big
It's a
feature.
surprise.
That's
Just a
Yeah, like
surprise.
a big feature that hasn't been
Like
announced.
teams,
Yeah.
Epic team.
Teams that actually matter? No way. Are you kidding me? Well, actually,
Yeah.
Teams would be okay with me too. Like if you could actually get.
They should call them dojos or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes.
Dojos.
There we go. And you could get actual like there's an incentive to be on a team at the for top 10 or top 5, whatever. You get different cosmetic stuff. We can go back to that, and you can get like special cosmetics. You can get different for your bike. You can get you name it. A BJ by Red Links themselves for being the top team. But
yeah.
What, all of Red Links?
Yes, all of them.
Every
Yes,
single
we'll give you.
person?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I think what Cabbage saying is something I hope for as well. Is I think everyone can agree in like with this statement that Fusion and Evo weren't dissimilar in the sense that at the core of the game it's basically the same thing. And if Red Links were to introduce something big that would actually shake up the game or something,
What
I would
Rafflemaster said.
be quite happy with that.
Basically, what I'm saying is that there hasn't been any leaks that are particularly interesting, and I'd like a surprise that is actually good. Like, stickers are like great, unbelievable for like customization and whatever, but I'm looking for like a big improvement in the actual like game
Mechanics.
No, like a ninja bike announcement.
No,
A
I
specific bike
don't
for
want a
ninjas?
ninja bike. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't want a stupid bike for ninjas.
Just turn it into the rabbit. Just have to do ninja tracks with the rabbit from now on.
Co-op building. If they dropped co-op building day of release, that would be like the best thing.
How about like even local, like building, on the same screen would be sick too. Like,
nah, get out of here with that.
No, you don't have anybody that you can bring over to your flat and be like, oh, I'll show you how to build. Wink, wink.
They both live in California, right?
Florida.
No, they live in Florida. Yes, they live like very close. Like
they've actually
can't remember, like 20 minutes away or something like that.
Oh, that's crazy.
That would have been a fun conversation.
Yeah, they did meet up in a bar or something like that.
Well, yeah, Doughnut, you met with who was it? Oso of Antir?
Yeah, I met with Oso. I met with Endeavor and Matt, the real Matt, of course. Chat.
Yeah.
No, there's a couple of Matts. Not Matthew Wayne, the other Matt. And yeah, I heard. Let's see. Oso knows. Who? Goes to the same school as him.
Red Tyga's brother lives in Portland.
Oh, Tyga's there? Really? I might have to get in contact with him.
Lorcan.
Who's Red Tyga's brother again?
Mac Maniac.
Oh, Mac. That's it. That was Mac. Yeah, Mac's the one that Oso knows. Apparently, he goes to the same school as him. So that's kind of cool. Like, he's not 21 yet.
Talking about that, like,
he's not 21 yet though.
Or something.
Like, we go out to drinks and stuff. Like, we gotta do that again. We went over to Buffalo Wild Wings and just like chatted about trials and like the future, whatnot.
Yeah,
so that was
I've met
really
up
cool.
with Wizolo. He's a speedrunner on PS4, one of the best to grace the game.
Yeah. Get in contact with your local trials players and go share a drink with them. All right.
That's kind of close, I guess.
I think that's a really good way to end it right there, you guys. Anything else that you guys want to add on for, I don't know, for Rising anticipation?
Nah, I'm gonna play it regardless of physics, honestly.
Yeah, it's gonna be fresh.
I think most people probably are.
It's just gonna be a fresh game, man.
They aren't gonna
be nice.
Yeah.
But I gotta thank everybody in the chat. I gotta thank Cab for being here. Thank you for joining. He joined us on pretty short notice, so big shout out. Big shout out to Big Cab Beast, Jacob, RJ, Lorcan. Thank you again for joining me this momentous occasion. Really appreciate you guys' support and thoughts and whatnot, and can't wait for more of these in the future. So goodbye, everybody. Peace out. I will probably be on a little bit later tonight. Got some other stuff to do, but take it easy.
Yeah, I'm gonna stream real quick.
Right.
Oof.
Peace out, guys.
Confirmed host. Bye, everyone.